Pam Bondi fired, Kristi Noem fired, and now reports are emerging that FBI Director Kash Patel, Army Secretary Daniel Driscoll, and Labor Secretary Lori Chavez DeRemer could all be next. Trump's cabinet is not just changing, it is collapsing. One by one, the people he personally chose to run the most powerful institutions in America are being shown the door. So what is really happening inside the Trump administration right now? Who is next? And what does this level of chaos mean for the American people? Stay with me, because today we are going through all of it. Welcome back to the channel. This is where we cover US politics seriously. No spin, no noise, just the facts and what they actually mean for America. Today we are focused entirely on the growing crisis inside Trump's own cabinet. We have 2 confirmed firings, 3 more officials reportedly under discussion, and a Department of Justice that is now being run by a man who was, until recently, Donald Trump's personal criminal defense lawyer. There is a lot to unpack here, so let's get into it. Let's start with Pam Bondi, because her firing is the centerpiece of everything happening right now. Bondi was confirmed as Attorney General and spent 14 months leading the Department of Justice. On Thursday, Trump fired her. He announced it on Truth Social, calling her a great American patriot and the loyal friend, and saying she would be moving to an important private sector role. That is the public version. Now let's talk about what actually happened. The central issue is the Epstein files. Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted sex offender who died in federal custody in 2019, had connections to some of the most powerful people in the world. For years, Trump's political base has demanded full transparency about those connections, full release of all DOJ files. Bondi initially promised to deliver exactly that. She came out publicly, made commitments, and even staged a moment where she handed social media influencers friendly to Trump large binders of documents, presenting it as a major release of Epstein files. The problem was, those binders contained information that was already publicly available. So Congress responded. Representative Thomas Massie introduced legislation mandating that the DOJ release all Epstein files by December 19th. That bill passed overwhelmingly. The DOJ missed the deadline. Millions of documents were released weeks late. And even then, numerous documents were withheld entirely. On March 17th, the House Oversight Committee issued a subpoena to Bondi, compelling her to testify under oath about the DOJ's handling of the Epstein files. On April 14th, 17 days later, she was fired. Now, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche went on Fox News and said Bondi's firing had nothing to do with the Epstein files. But the timeline speaks for itself, and members of both parties are not buying that explanation. Representative Thomas Massie, a Republican, publicly said he supported Trump firing Bondi and called for the next Attorney General to release all remaining Epstein files and pursue actual investigations and prosecutions. Representative Nancy Mace, also a Republican, said Bondi handled the Epstein files in a terrible manner and welcomed her removal. And House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries called Bondi's tenure the most corrupt period of any Attorney General in modern American history, pointing to the DOJ's pursuit of Trump's political enemies and the concealment of Epstein documents as a massive cover-up. This is not a partisan story. Republicans and Democrats alike are saying the same thing, that Bondi failed and the American people were not given the transparency they were promised. Now let's talk about who is actually running the Department of Justice right now. Todd Blanche is the Acting Attorney General of the United States. He is also Donald Trump's former personal criminal defense lawyer. He represented Trump during his criminal trials before Trump returned to the White House. Think about what that means for a moment. The Department of Justice, the institution responsible for independent law enforcement across the entire country, is now being led by the man who spent years defending the President of the United States in criminal court. That is not a normal situation. That is not standard practice. and it raises serious, legitimate questions about the independence of the DOJ going forward. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, a Democratic member of the Judiciary Committee, put it plainly. He said that anyone who takes the Attorney General role in this administration faces a terrible tension. They have to sacrifice their integrity to keep the job. Meanwhile, Trump is reportedly considering Lee Zeldin, currently the head of the Environmental Protection Agency, as a permanent replacement for Bondi, the EPA administrator. Moving to run the Department of Justice in the middle of an ongoing Epstein files investigation with a congressional subpoena already issued, this is the state of American law enforcement right now. To understand the full picture, we need to go back briefly to the firing before Bondi's, because there is a pattern forming here. Kristi Noem was removed as Secretary of Homeland Security weeks before Bondi's firing. Her dismissal came after significant backlash over DHS's aggressive immigration enforcement in Minnesota, enforcement that resulted in the shooting deaths of 2 American citizens by federal agents. Noem was replaced by Mark Wayne Mullen, a former U.S. Senator from Oklahoma. 2 cabinet members fired in quick succession, both of them are women. This detail has not gone unnoticed. Former Trump White House lawyer Ty Cobb told CNN that he believes Trump is targeting female cabinet members more harshly than male ones. He pointed specifically to Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth as individuals he believed should face scrutiny, but haven't. Epstein survivor Laura Bloom McGee made a similar observation. She noted that the only people facing real accountability and losing their positions have been women, drawing a parallel to how Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's female accomplice, was prosecuted and sentenced, while the male abusers in Epstein's network have faced no consequences. These are serious observations, and they deserve to be part of this conversation. Now let's talk about what may be coming next, because according to The Atlantic, citing people familiar with White House plans, there are active discussions about 3 more departures: FBI Director Kash Patel, Army Secretary Daniel Driscoll, and Labor Secretary Lori Chavez DeRemer. Let's focus on Kash Patel specifically, because his potential removal carries the most serious implications. Patel was installed as FBI Director as one of Trump's most loyal appointments. He was seen as someone who would fundamentally reshape the FBI in line with Trump's priorities, targeting what Trump's base describes as the deep state, rewarding loyalty, and dismantling the institutional structures that Trump has long viewed as hostile to him. If Patel is now being discussed as a potential departure, the question is obvious. What happened? Did he not go far enough? Did he push back on something? Or is this simply the continuation of a pattern where no one, no matter how loyal, is safe? That last possibility is perhaps the most concerning one, because if even Kash Patel is not secure, it tells you that the instability inside this administration is not about performance or policy, it is structural. It is the nature of how this White House operates. And when the institutions responsible for law enforcement, national security, and the military are being run by people who know their tenure could end at any moment based on a Truth Social post, that has real consequences for how those institutions function. Let's come back to the Epstein files, because this is the thread that connects almost everything happening right now. The American people were promised transparency. What they got was a staged performance, with pre-existing public documents presented as new revelations, missed deadlines, and a congressional subpoena. And now, the firing of the Attorney General, 17 days after that subpoena was issued. Representative Robert Garcia, the ranking Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, made something very clear after Bondi's firing. He said, "Bondi and Trump may think her firing gets her out of testifying. They are wrong. The subpoena stands. She will still testify under oath on April 14th. The family of Virginia Giuffre, one of the most prominent Epstein survivors, who passed away last year, released a statement following Bondi's dismissal. They said, "Another one falls on the sword to protect the powerful." and expressed hope that Bondi would have the courage to actually do right by survivors when she testifies. That statement captures something important. For the survivors of Epstein's crimes, people who have waited years for real accountability, Bondi's firing is not a victory. It changes nothing unless what comes next is genuine transparency and genuine prosecution of those responsible. And right now, with Trump's personal defense lawyer running the DOJ and an EPA administrator reportedly being considered as the next Attorney General, confidence in that outcome is not high. So here is where things actually stand today. Pam Bondi is out. Todd Blanche, Trump's former personal defense lawyer, is the acting Attorney General of the United States. Bondi still must testify under oath on April 14th. The Epstein files are still not fully released. Kristi Noem is gone. 2 American citizens were killed by federal agents during immigration enforcement on her watch. Her replacement is a former senator from Oklahoma, Kash Patel. Daniel Driscoll and Lori Chavez-DeRemer are reportedly under discussion for removal. Trump has not yet decided, but the discussion is happening. And the Department of Justice, the institution that is supposed to stand above politics, above loyalty, above personal relationships, is now being shaped almost entirely around those very things. This is the reality of the Trump administration in April 2026. The American people deserve better than this. They deserve a DOJ that operates independently. They deserve the Epstein files in full. They deserve cabinet officials who are chosen for competence and held accountable for performance, not fired when they become a political inconvenience. Whether those things happen, that is the question that the coming weeks will answer. I will be watching this closely and covering every development as it happens, with the same depth and seriousness that these stories deserve. If this kind of analysis is valuable to you, please hit like and subscribe. Share this with someone who wants to understand what is really happening in Washington right now. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Kash Patel is next? Do you think the Epstein files will ever be fully released? I want to hear from you. I will see you in the next one.